I got my tea. It is very good. It's lemongrass. So I think the first line of code I wrote was in my intro to programming class in Python, September of 2019. So that's the beginning of my fall quarter. So a little bit of backstory, I was a business major when I first entered into Cal Poly SLO, and during my spring quarter of my freshman year, I started noticing I didn't really like the business curriculum that much. I took accounting the previous quarter and almost failed at it and was like, no, I don't like this. And I knew I wanted something a little bit more like technical and like involve more critical thinking, as business was mainly a humanities curriculum. So I really like stats, so I switched into stats, and as required for my stats major, I had to take a programming class in Python, and I was not looking forward to this class at all. Going into this class, I did not want to touch like coding at all. I didn't think it was for me. I had no inclination to go to it. I thought only super smart people could do it, whatever that meant. So going into the class, I was already prepared to like barely pass it and just get the heck out of there. And that was kind of the same feeling I had for the first few weeks of that class. So you know how in all those kind of like coding videos, I guess, they show you the first line of code that you write is like print hello world? I didn't know how to do that. We were using the Vim browser, and the class was just going so fast. Like I remember on the first day, the teacher was just going so fast. Everyone was in the lab and most of the people knew what they were doing, and the other half of us were just so confused. And my like heart started beating so fast because I'm like, how am I gonna do this class? So the first few weeks was like that. I remember I would like break down for my roommate in our kitchen at like midnight just crying because I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I suck at this. I'm not smart. I can't go in this field, blah, 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 blah. Because at that moment I was like, oh, maybe I could do the data science minor. I'm like, no, that's not happening. Like I don't know how to code. I remember there was this one piece set where I was running it and it wasn't working. I was like, all my code is correct. All my print statements are there. But then I realized I had confused print statements and return statements. So it's like all my fundamental knowledge of coding that I was learning at the time, I just did not understand it. I didn't understand variables and global code and functions and how to create like new projects, because I was losing all my work. I didn't know how to save it and anything. So I felt like I couldn't compare to the rest of the kids in the class because most of them were actually white male CS majors who knew what they were doing. And I was like maybe one of 10 girls. And of the girls, I don't think many of us were CS majors too, so I felt really lost and I felt like I couldn't do it. So I kept going to office hours, I kept going to TA, I kept going to tutoring, I kept using every single free resource I had to get help, but I still wasn't improving, I still wasn't understanding. I would still take forever to do the projects, and just nothing was clicking. And I was really stressed out because I thought like I would not be able to make it through this class, and when I failed this class, I couldn't declare as a statistics major. So then around week 5 or 6, we were doing this project that was infamous to be known as the hardest project in this class. So I was already prepared to like, okay, you know what, I'm probably gonna fail this project. That's it, it's done. But I'm like, you know what, let's just start early. And this project was called Calcudoku. So it was where we had to solve a puzzle that was similar to Sudoku, but it was even harder. So instead of just each row and column having only one of each number, we had cells where the cells could only have no repeat of the number, and the cell had to add up to a certain sum. So it was really complicated, and we used like a brute force algorithm. With that project, I started it, but then halfway through it, my logic was making no sense. It wasn't running, and it just wasn't working. So I'm like, you know what, let me just start over. So I erased my entire code. I took out my legal pad. Yes, I love legal pads instead of notebooks, and I just wrote out the logic step by step in just plain old English for every single line of code. And then I transcribed that to actual code and kind of organized it more efficiently. And that's kind of where I saw the organization of code come into, where it's like you start off with the idea and then you actually end up with code. And then I ended up finishing the project early and it was running correctly. And I remember walking out of the lab just ecstatic. This was about like 3 or 5 days before the project was due. And normally I finished the project during office hours during the day that it was due. And I finished this project and I just kept running my code over and over again because I'm like, wow, like I did it, it worked. And that was the moment where I think I finally started to like programming. Like I like the critical thinking of it. I like the problem solving, the kind of way it's like a logic puzzle, kind of training your brain to think in a different way. So I think that was the moment where I actually started trying hard and realized, wait, I could actually maybe involve this into my major. So then it was the end of the course and I completed the class and I completed it with a good grade. And I was enrolled in the next course of the Python series. And then I became this person who liked Python and was kind of a little bit good at it. And I didn't think for once that I would have gotten to the place, nor did I want to get there. So it was really strange to know that, like, wow, I kind of code now. So then we go into winter break. So winter break, I decided to take a SQL course on Coursera. So I was noticing as a statistics major that a lot of the jobs offered for like data analytics internships, they required you to know SQL. But that wasn't part of our course curriculum, nor was it even offered at Cal Poly. So I'm like, you know what, let's just take SQL. Maybe I can just put it in my resume, better chance of getting a job. So I took the course on Coursera. It was the one for UC Davis, I'll link it down below. And it was a really great course. What I noticed is that, yeah, it was programming, but it was very different from Python. It was a lot of aggregating data and querying data and like retrieving and kind of analyzing data, but not necessarily programming itself. So it was a great course and I did well, and I'm really glad I took it because now I understand what SQL is, I know how to use it kind of, and that's another skill to add. But I think that's also when I started to distinguish what I liked about programming and what type of languages I liked. So then after that course was my winter quarter. So winter quarter was when I was fully established as a statistics major. I had come out a fall quarter with a full schedule of all these STEM classes, and now I was kind of adjusting to it. So this quarter I was taking 2 programming classes. I was taking data structures and intro to programming in R. So intro to programming in R was a stat major class, but it was a programming class. And then the data structures class was a Python class. With my experience from the previous course, I was kind of knowing what to expect in this Python course. I knew it'd be hard, I knew it'd be fast-paced, I knew I would probably be one of the few girls in the class, and I knew from the start that I had to be on top of it because I am a slow learner and I need things kind of explained to me in a really visual manner. So I knew that there was no slacking off. But this class was at 7 in the morning. So I probably missed around 5 days worth of class and late to class almost every other day. So the days that I was in class, given that I wasn't asleep, I didn't understand the lectures. So like the things we were learning in this class were things from like queues and stacks to then like bubble sort and merge sort and all these different types of algorithms and data structures. And I would understand in English what he was talking about, our professor, but in terms of code, I didn't know what he was talking about at all. During the first 2 weeks of this course, I felt like I was back in my introduction to programming class. I was constantly struggling. I didn't know how to use the IDE. I think I used PyCharm. Just things weren't clicking and I kept struggling. I kept watching videos, I kept going to off hours, and like nothing was working. A lot of it was due to me because I kept falling asleep in class and it was really hard for me to pay attention. So try not to take a 7 a.m. class if you can avoid it. And again, I was using all the free resources I had. I kept going to the TA, I kept going to off hours, I kept going to tutoring, but again, nothing was clicking. And I was really starting to struggle. And this was when I thought, okay, you know what? I can't do the data science minor anymore. So then we took the midterm. And I failed. And by fail, I mean I got like a 58%. It was horrible. I remember checking my grade and I was crying and I was texting my roommate and my mom, and I was so frazzled because I'm like, I don't know how to recover my grade after this. Because in college, your midterms are a huge chunk of your grade compared to high school, and I hadn't failed anything in college. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. And then there was a class in R. So R was a pretty similar language to Python, and I enjoyed this class a lot. It was definitely pretty hard and time demanding as you're learning a completely new language, but the projects were more focused on analysis and data versus programming actual projects, if that makes sense. And because my day started at 7 a.m. with my Python class and I had work until 9 p.m. some days, I would be on campus for like 14 plus hours, bringing my lunch and dinner, constantly office hours for R and Python, just making sure I knew what was going on because I just needed as much help as I could get. So after my confidence and my grade taking a huge blow after my Python midterm, I decided that I could either turn this around and try to get a good grade, or I could just give up and accept the fail. If you can guess, I did not decide to accept the fail. So I kept going upstairs, I just kept doing what I was doing. And finally, after hours and hours of watching YouTube videos and binary search trees and red and black trees and asking my friends for help and just up late at night trying to finish projects, things started to finally click. And I was actually recovering my grade. I was doing better in quizzes. I was actually asking questions during lecture that kind of made sense, I guess. And I eventually ended up with a relatively good grade. And I think the biggest thing I could take away from this is that going into the final, we had a study group and it was actually able to explain topics. And I think it's one thing, it's like, okay, yeah, you do well in a quiz, but was that just by chance, like a random variation and all that? Or do you actually know what's going on? I think that really showed me that at the end of the class that I actually knew what we learned. I actually knew how to explain it to the others. So after that, my confidence was recovered and I decided, okay, you know what? I can do this. It's just a pattern within these courses that I just have to try really hard. Well, during the entire course, but the first few weeks are gonna be a struggle because you're learning something new. Okay, so then we have spring quarter. And this quarter was this year, 2020. So it was when the pandemic was starting to surge and we had to move all our stuff back home and take virtual classes. So this quarter was pretty exciting because I was finally starting data science courses within my data science minor. So far, I'd only completed stat courses and CS courses. So this quarter, I was taking object-oriented programming in Java, as well as Introduction to Data Science. And as you can tell by the smile on my face, I was super excited for Intro to Data Science because I knew I was interested in data science, but I didn't know what data science was. I knew all these terms like machine learning and artificial intelligence, but I had no idea what it actually was. For my Java class, it was like my Intro to Python class all over again. It was a completely new language, and learning Java and Python at the same time is so annoying because the syntaxes are so different. So I was putting braces in my Python code, forgetting braces in my Java code, and I had such a hard time understanding the concepts of Java, like abstract classes and inheritance and interfaces and all this stuff, and I was struggling again a lot. Kept asking my friends to help, kept watching videos, kept going to office hours. But then on the side in my data science course, I was really liking that. I was spending hours in the class, but not hours because I was struggling, because I liked it so much. I would go to office hours not necessarily because I needed help, but because I just wanted to learn more about what was going on. So towards the end of the quarter, I was losing interest in my Java class, but my interest for my data science course was going up immensely. And I had studied Python 2 quarters before that and put in my blood, sweat, and tears into this class, so I wasn't ready to let it go completely. So I wasn't putting a lot of effort into my Java class, which was probably on me, but for my data science course, I was learning so much. I was finally seeing the intersection between CS and statistics, and was able to do projects that analyzed data and actually showed you results that you could interpret and analyze, which was so cool. At the end of the class, we had to do a final project on machine learning, and I finally learned what machine learning was, and it was so exciting because it's like, wow, now I finally know what all these big words are. And I remember at the end of the class, I was really sad for it to end because I really enjoyed it and wanted to learn more. And our school doesn't have that many data courses, so I'm hoping to learn more on Coursera. So this summer, I'm not learning any new programming languages, but I'm taking a lot of the knowledge I've learned in the past 9 months and applying it to so many different things. I'm doing research with professors where I'm using Python and R and analyzing neural networks and improving their accuracy. And I'm also creating visuals for this whole data set about mental health, about students at Cal Poly, and just figuring out a better way to communicate it. And I think one thing I learned throughout this past year is communication is such an essential aspect to everything, as well as statistics, data science, and computer science. Because yeah, great, you can have a model that has a 99% accuracy, but can you explain what it's doing? Can you tell the next person why your code is good and why it works so well? Because I feel like if you can't communicate something, then it has no value. So I think that's something I really want to go into, like data communication and education, and kind of bringing more exposure to this field. And it's crazy to think that within 9 months, 1 academic year, I have learned so much academically, professionally, personally, and I'm just really excited that I kind of fell into this field, I guess. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. I hope I didn't ramble too much. If you're like me and you're learning data science or computer science or any new thing for that matter, and you're struggling a lot, I would say just keep going to office hours, keep asking for help, keep doing what you're doing. The more you ask for help, the better. I think some people see asking for help as a weakness, but honestly, I see it as you recognize what your weaknesses are and you're not afraid to get help for it. You're not afraid to strengthen what you're bad at, and I feel like that's something really respectable. So keep trying, keep doing what you're doing, and I promise you, you will get better. So next year, I'm planning to take more CS courses and stat courses and data science courses, and hopefully grow this channel more. Yeah, if you made it to the end of this video, subscribe and like, and I hope you enjoyed my talking and rambling, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!